part. So in this first part of this module, we just have a look, a general outlook about the theory, the theory of the model of learning. So let's see it together, and we point out also some part related to the artificial intelligence, just because it's a new issue for everybody and also for us, of course. So as far as the first part we want to see is we approach is the classical theories about the learning models of the students, and we saw that there are three main theories that are the behavioral and the new behavioral conception, the cognitivist conception, and the constructivist conception. These are the main three theories about how students learn. So let's see in shortly what are the main points about these three theories. As far as the first theory, the behaviorist conception, learning is driven by this mechanism, the stimulus-response mechanism. So it's something that is, in a sense, an engineering process. There's a stimulus. Oh, sorry. There is a stimulus and a response by the students. It's not something that the students produce inside himself, but is not an internal process. Learning is acquired throughout external stimulation, and the learning is conditioned to the external environment. This is maybe the first theory that was developed about learning. Afterwards, was developed the cognitivist approach, and in this cognitivist approach, learning is something that is more complex in the sense that learning is an elaborative process of information, and there is an internal reaction between the teacher and the students. So learning is transformed into a personal organization just because of the teacher helping the students. And learning also enables the subject, the students, to make the knowledge he needs his own, and to reuse the knowledge in a multiple context. So, as we saw in the last part of this slide, the cognitivist conception aims more to train the student's mind instead of give the students information and context. The more important things in this approach is training the student's mind. And after the cognitivist conception, another development is represented by the constructivist conception. In this third model of learning, learning is a generative and reciprocal construction process. So the learning of the students derives exactly from the interaction that is made up between among the students and the teacher. And learning is focused on the learner's attitude and ability to make meaningful what it is to be learned. So it's not important what they learn, what the students learn, the content itself, but the meaning, how the students can give meaning to the knowledge that they acquire. So in a sentence, the subject is an active constructor of reality and of his own knowledge. So after having seen this general theory about learning, we just focus on the relationship that can be made between artificial intelligence and the school. And so we just ask ourselves some questions that can be relevant in designing the guideline for facilitating the learning of AI for my school students. And the main question that we point out are the following. So what relationship do our students have with AI? And more, what role does AI play in their lives? What relationship is there between AI and the world around them? And another one is, does AI represent an opportunity or a threat for them, for the students? So these are things that has to be taken into account when thinking about artificial intelligence in school. So we can observe that there is a complexity to manage, and the teacher, or we can also call the teacher the facilitator. The first task of the teacher is to be a guide for the children, for the students, to take care to manage this complexity. To experience the relationship with new tools and with these new dynamics that AI took into the school. And there is also, this is a general question about the teaching or the learning process, but there is also a technical aspect to be taken in consideration. So it will be appropriate to adopt necessary attention and sensitivities to the various learning styles of the students, as well as their properties and aptitudes. But before I just going on, maybe it can be useful for everybody to know a little bit more about artificial intelligence. So we just focus on a possible description of artificial intelligence. So what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence can be defined as a branch of computer science that studies the development of hardware and software solutions that replicated in a way specific skills that are typical of human being. Learning and adaptation, reasoning, planning, dealing with the environment. And the really incredible thing of artificial intelligence is that it can is capable to make the autonomously pursuing a defined purpose, making decisions that until then were usually entrusted to people. So this machine, this software and hardware together, they can elaborate, they can elaborate solution by themselves in an autonomous way. And at the base of the artificial intelligence, there are algorithms, computational techniques, solutions that can replicate human behavior. So we just point out some of these software and these technical solutions that are elaborated by artificial intelligence. We can have chatbots, for example, and chatbots is a software that simulates and processes human conversation, both written or spoken. Again, we can have NLP, natural language processing. NLP techniques create intelligent conversation systems. We can have also computer vision. That means that the computer can understand the images of videos. They can analyze by themselves, computer itself, images and videos. IDP, intelligent data processing, that means that computer can do extraction of information present in big data, in large quantity of data. We can also have a recommendation system, and we saw that this is the main pillar of the business model of all social and e-commerce platform. That means that this recommendation system analyze what the user do just when they go around the website, and then they can propose a recommendation for the user. Of course, these recommendations are different from user to user, just using the surfing in the website made by the user itself. And another classes of solution is represented by physical solution. That means that this AI, artificial intelligence software, is applied to physical objects. So we can have autonomous vehicles, autonomous robots, and intelligent objects. So here we find how this class of solution can be applied can reach the purposes. And each AI solution is characterized by a number of properties which can be defined as capabilities that are achieved through different hardware and software technology. Here we just refocus this different kind of software. So NLP, natural language processing, image processing, learning, reasoning, and classification. These are all skills that artificial intelligence can do. Social interaction with the environment. Let's think about, for example, to mapping, navigation, movement, path planning, and so on. And so the question and the relevant aspect for our C1 training is what model of learning for AI students. And here we just examine some relevant point that the teacher has to keep in mind when has to structure a system model for AI student. So the first point is knowledge of the class and the context. The second point is the approach to AI. So that means the student question and their relationship to AI. The third point is that to take in consideration is the knowledge and comparison of main classes of solution, the classes of solution that we saw before. And the fourth point is identification of scope of application learning to be chosen from the capabilities that we saw in the previous slide. As a next step is the use of programming environment and STEAME learning labs in order to develop a model. And we just stressed the importance of this point, that is the preparation of the operational setting. So that means how the students have to work, which is the way that can be better for students to work in approaching this AE learning. And we saw that in IT learning is important, the cooperation and collaborative mode of learning, so working in pair or working in group. But we also saw that sometimes when students work in a collaborative way, if it is not structured by the teacher, if this collaborative way is not guided by the teacher, students can lose themselves because they find difficult to work together. And so it can be useful let the students work together, but in a structured way. So maybe giving them some roles, assigning the students a specific role. For example, two programming pupils plays the role, one plays the role of conductor, the driver, and write the code, while the other can play the role of navigator, the observer, and supervise, do an activity of supervising and review the code, looking for any errors, and reproposing possibly alternative methods. And of course, another important step is the project-based learning that we have already saw as an important thing in the learning activities. So it's important to give the students a real activity to do. So this real activity can be the design and creation of apps or programming using the AI, the artificial intelligence. This means that students must have a deep knowledge and understanding of the process, a knowledge and use of necessary tools and technician, so algorithms, decision tree, languages, software and hardware. Also to focus on the educational value of the error, of the mistake, because as teacher, sometimes when we see an error, we just mark the error and we give a bad score just because of the error. Instead, in a field like this, error must be valued the mistake must be valued in another way. I mean, the mistake is very important to go on in learning. So it has not to be pointed out as mistakes and a bad score, but just to be a natural process of the learning activities. And then at the end, also an activity of reflection and metacognition. That means thinking about what students have done and let them think together, the students and the teacher, about the possible mistakes and the process of learning. So what are the main skills that has to be taken into account, has to be focused on when we have to think about a model of learning related to the AI STEAME models? But of course, problem solving, computational thinking, coding, digital skill, reasoning. Here we just point out some of the main relevant skills: categorization and classification, search of information and selection of the information, recognizing the source, the importance of the source, the different sources that they can find on the web, and conscious and critical use of information. And as far as the suggested methodologies, we just for the main important can be cooperative learning, flipped classroom, self-study, but as I said before, above all, project-based learning activities. So something that has at the base has a real activity to do as a focus of the learning process. And as conclusion, as a last part, and as a conclusion, we can say that while it is important to build guidelines and models for AI learning, and these guidelines can be shared and used in different realities by grade, the geographical context, the school and the teacher facilitator must know how to adapt the models to the context. That means cultural background, motivation, interest, tools, and so on. And only in this way, AI also gets into dialogue with other intelligences. So this is the first part. Then my colleague, Veronica Cuttoli, will go on with the second part related to the model of learning. And she will focus on a more specific part. Okay, thank you for your kind attention.
Questions at the end?
No, if you...
So if anyone wants to ask any questions,
Yeah, anyone, if there is any question, of course.
Just to explain to some colleagues who mentioned STEAME. STEAME is science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, and entrepreneurship. There are several other projects running at the moment developing the STEM learning approach, which is mainly inquiry-based learning and project-based learning. So we consider that part of the process of teaching students in schools. We may use the project-based learning approach, and we have to be creative to create projects that involve the artificial intelligence elements that we need to pass to the students as a learning understanding. So besides teaching in classroom, we need to consider this evolution of learning into project-based activity. But it is also a challenge because even with topics we already know, it's difficult to create project descriptions for students. So imagine for a new subject, but this is part of the teaching process that we want to include in the learning and creativity plan. Yes, sir.
There is one, I will share with you one very fresh piece of information from Romania. So INACO is an initiative of competitiveness in Romania platform, and they just published a study about among the college students and pre-university students about their perception about the future of jobs and how they are trained about the future of jobs. And they said, most of them, 2/3, they said they are not prepared. The schools are not preparing them for the future of jobs. Among these digital jobs, and this will be the bank major part. So the question is, based on your knowledge, how you can, as Professor Martinez said, how we can be creative, because also they are, let's say, their perception is that not all, why it happens. When the answer is, it happened because the training courses are not correct, they are not properly done for them. So they do not understand too much. They are not questioning the professor's abilities, but rather the lack of content.
Or the problem is that they get
so the way is how to, which is the best solution, do you think, to address this issue?
As far as my opinion, because the same problem we have in Italy, I mean, all research always said that school doesn't prepare students for working future, and students also tell like this. So that's the question that is very relevant also in Italy, and is an old question, an old matter that is going on. And from one point of view, it has to be changed in Italy. I speak for Italian reality because I don't know. From one point of view, it should be change the let's call it the state programming, because the content that we taught,
the manuals,
exactly, the manual and also the programs that are decided by state, because we cannot teach what we want. We have to teach what the state tell us to teach. And so one step is to change from the central organization the topics that we have to teach to students. And the second part, as far as my opinion is concerned, is just to make enterprise companies, private companies that manage these topics entering the school. Because sometimes there is, we are teachers, of course, and we are a professional teacher, but we teach for as a work, but we are also, we as teachers are far from this knowledge that goes on very quickly. So if school can open itself, the schools can open themselves to the manager, to the product manager that can work together with teacher in order to manage these new topics that are very, very new and important, I think that can be useful in order to make the working environment closer to the school. That's my opinion.
If I may add, what we need to do is to deviate from knowledge-based learning into competence-based learning. But the knowledge is easily accessible nowadays with digital learning, etc. So if we can facilitate that, then we can concentrate more on the competence-based learning. This is what the students are feeling they don't have. They have knowledge which maybe they don't remember, but they have no competence to retrieve it or to apply it. This is why the students are not happy.
This is what I wanted to say, that we shouldn't downgrade also the importance of the familiarization of the students to such concepts, because we cannot expect students to understand fully how a learning network works, for example. We cannot expect them to, we cannot teach them actually, because they need math that are in a very higher level than they are. So you cannot teach them the complexity, the full complexity of AI algorithms or how AI actually works. But it's very important, in my point of view at least, to teach them, to get them familiarized with these concepts in order to increase the motivation for them to get deeper and create the competencies you mentioned.
And I do have if I may, I have a small observation at the same time about the risks. What happens if, for example, a student will learn about artificial intelligence, and one day he will have such an enormous power to develop, for example, robots that will gain self-conscious. What will happen in that case? Which is the barrier that this kind of content for students is growing?
Well, yeah, I hear stories like this, but from my point of view, I don't worry about this because I will have another 10 smarter people like him that will stop him.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great. That's great. So it is
But
a risk.
I think, because I'm trying for days now, because we have the last module on how to also structure this learning plan. But I think to help the students, if I'm not mistaken, is to try to put the student in the place of the machine. Let's say you are the artificial intelligence, how you keep memory of things. So if we have the student do exercises, that he becomes supposedly the artificial intelligence memory, then he may understand what these machines are doing because they can remember better than him. Just that, I'm just trying to think what examples could do this.
Because it can become like a weapon at the same time.
Well, I have some notes about the presentation. This discussion is of course interesting. I think we are far away from that in this level. Okay. We don't need to be afraid at this level. We are thinking on very low level artificial intelligence. Of course, that is a concern nowadays. But the governments are working on that field now to protect and to find ways to protect something like that to happen. It's like a super intelligent algorithm that everyone talks about. Well, my biggest concern is about the presentation of the model itself, or this course. I think we are developing a course that has several modules. Okay. Is like a fixed platform with several modules. In the limit, you can cherry pick them. I can choose one instead of the other because of my preferences. Maybe, I don't know. But maybe it's a possibility. We talk about PBL. Okay, we agree. It's one of the things we talked in the beginning of this development. But in the beginning of the presentation, you talk about learning styles. Okay. The artificial intelligence helping or facilitating in the learning styles. I think we are not going to do that. I think it's not the focus of our work. Okay, learning styles depends on student. And the transmission of the module, what does this mean? This means that each module should have several ways to be developed, okay, to transmit to some kind of student. And it also needs to understand who the student is to present or to recommend the best way to transmit that module. So the decision, in my opinion, we are developing a platform and not a recommendation system about learning modules.
No,
I don't know if I'm being how do I say, if I explain it,
sure. I think
very much, but my concern, if we can put something like that, but remove the name learning styles.
I guess what Mario did, he said the theoretical background of learning styles exists until today in the school system. But you are right also that we want to adapt to change, and we have to adapt to the students. The students are learning in different styles that we think are best for them. So we need to follow them in a sense. That's why with the STEAME learning and creativity plans and the STEAME learning approach that we develop is something that is not used in schools yet, because there is no time, because there is structure. But the project-based learning approach is a learning style that we can recommend as an approach to develop the competences of the kids.
But there are very things, for example, to make myself clear, there are many students that are not, the best way to learn is not through a project-based learning. So, if don't like to work in projects like that, it's a different learning style. If you use the term learning style, is a very well-known artificial intelligence topic. Okay, it's dangerous to present something like this and don't use learning styles. Okay,
for me, that make no difference. We just want to point out.
You can change the name or make it a little bit different.
Yeah, okay.
The phrase.
Well, we don't call it style, we call it approach.
Okay.
But in this project, we're trying to develop something to facilitate the learning and understanding of artificial intelligence in school students. So,
the thing that we wanted to point out is just that.
so you can use any word you want as long as you
Yeah.
define it. So even the style can be defined in different words. The style that we're talking about the last 30 years may be a different definition of it. So, but it's approach.
Yeah, okay, it doesn't matter.
So
The only
I
important
don't worry
thing
about words. I don't worry about
The
words.
big ways, these styles, the learning ways.
yes, it's okay. Just the thing that we want to point out was that as the expert told us, because that the teaching has to be tailored on the students' need. That's the sense of the learning styles. All students are different, so we as teacher, for every subject, every topics, we have to find a way to teach just taking into consideration the difference of the student, all the difference of the students.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. The most difficult thing is, at least for me, simplification.
Yeah.
Especially if you have worked in academia, simplify these concepts. I mean, I had a hard time preparing the presentation I'm going to show you tomorrow because I'm trying to downgrade in order to find simple words to say that. And that is an example.
Yeah, sure.
Because if you switch from learning styles, as Ricardo said, then you simplify it, and it's just ways. It's simple for us to understand, and for the facilitator to teach to the kids. So we can all try to do that in order to create something that is more adaptable.
Absolutely.
Okay, we go to the second part and we discuss.
Okay. Okay. This part is more specific, and I think that it helps with some questions or problems that some of you have brought up. Artificial intelligence enters in the school world in 2 ways. As a subject, as a discipline that student and even teacher have to learn and develop, but even as a supporting tool. Okay. This project that can be used as in a different way, guiding teachers on basic AI. What happened? If I am a school teacher. If I go to my colleague and ask about artificial intelligence, they are scared. I don't know what it is. We have art teachers, language teachers, Italian teachers, physical education. They are afraid of artificial intelligence. They think, okay, I cannot understand what they are doing, so it's something that I don't want to know. And on the other side, we would like to introduce IE to students, how they start from manually using intelligence information data to make the decision and prediction with AI tools. So this is an attempt to help teachers to understand how we all can approach to AI. And the structure will be, on one side, we will follow the project. On the other side, we can see what is behind the PBL project. That is a STEAME way to approach the teaching. We are STEAME involves multiple disciplines, and in the same way changes the approach because it's based more on competencies, not only on knowledge.
More because we don't see the change of slides.
Yes. Just a second.
Stop sharing, share again the screen.
Visible now?
Now we
It's not
have
in my-
change slide now.
Okay.
Putting,
This one. So is it visible?
yes, it's okay.
Okay.
So
Have you seen this? Where
No, no, it's- Usually it was passed to the report.
Okay, these are the few slides I was showing. This is only a simple example of a possible video. The students, in this project, students will learn how to classify information about a specific subject, so can be using all kinds of subjects, and then understand how AI can classify larger set of information. So it's something that the brain can do, but the artificial intelligence can do faster, better. It's a lot of there are a lot of data that can treat and they use that information to make decisions to solve real-world problems. And they should be able to create a guessing game based on AI algorithm. So at the end of this project, they should be able to use a decision tree to classify subject matter data, understand how AI uses classification algorithm to make decisions and solve real-world problems, and create a guessing game that simulates AI classification algorithm. It's very simple because it's, when we thought to this project, we thought to us as a teacher. We are not experts, we are not mathematicians, we are not engineers, so we need something simple that help us to understand when they say artificial intelligence wants to recreate the human brain. Someone says that with artificial intelligence, they want to create a artificial human brain. So what is behind and what can be done? And we're saying here are what we talk about when we talk about competencies. We can see the competencies, the AI tools, and the pedagogical framework. So that with the project, they formulate problems, so they become active part of the learning process. And with the AI support, they can assess open source programs that can be used to understand a decision tree algorithm or to collect, organize all the activity. The first part, and this is they can do manually, and then they can understand how it works for a computer. They work in a practical way. They work in small groups, trying to the possible classification. So we give them a subject. We are in a music lesson. So let's talk about instruments, all kinds of instruments, how you can classify them, how can you describe we can give them the 20 or 30 objects, or they can think about them. And they have to work on the find strategies to for the classification. Then each group explain the process. How do they classify the data, and which features the items have in common? So, and even here we have all the part that the part that is pedagogical. So the working groups. So they are engaged, because everybody knows that sometimes if the subject is not very, for them it's hard, they get bored and they don't pay attention anymore. So working in groups helps them. They collect data and they use digital tools to analyze them. And they are open to learn in a new way, a real world context that involve learners themselves in hands-on activity. And then they use technology to activate and create this kind of engagement. And of course, they go on they have the access to different high-tech technologies. So they can research online, they have video, they have training, they have explanation for everything, every concept. And they can have a dashboard where they can share everything. In the activity tool, they are going to classify. So students consider various types of data representation and they go deeper to see how AI can use the decision tree to classify, because the human brain can do, but even the computer can use a decision tree. The first part is encourage students to investigate how data or information can be represented in many ways. We have a chart, partners, logic models, Venn diagram, thinking maps. And the second part, they are introduced to algorithms. So what is artificial intelligence? How AI used to power decision-making about data sets? Classification algorithms are one way that AI can categorize larger set of data. And the decision tree is a basic tool, is one of the basic tools, it's not the only one, but it's one of the basic tools for the classification. And we can go deeper. This is a famous example, a classical data set of Finland for creating a decision tree to predict if the weather conditions are okay for go outside and play a sport, a match. So we have the date, a simple table of date, temperature, outlook, humidity, wind, day, and they have manually. They can start from here manually, and they start reasoning. What are the features? What are the characteristics that we have to consider? Okay, it's sunny. The windy. It's windy. It's not windy. The decision tree is a structure representing a hierarchical sequence of variables which are being evaluated from the students. and they have branches that are followed based on observed value. So this is the structure, and that can do manually. Where do we start? They have to reasoning because they have to. Can you imagine they are doing this exercise manually? So where do we start? From which features? We need to measure to evaluate the ability of different branches to describe the data characteristic in order to choose the most convenient. We see the splits because we have to start making choice, yes or no. Basically, we have to try to divide and choose to choose between yes or no. Until one option is left. And then to understand where we have to split, where we have to stop. There are different ways to proceed. We use the Gini index to measure impurity.
Sorry, measure what?
Impurity. Because we have to find a way to understand where to stop. Because we can go on with the splitting, but we have to try to understand where to cut the branch, because we will have a tree. Well, so we have to understand where to cut the branches, where to stop. So we are going to do in a simple way with and only for a few branches with the Gini index. It's just an example for teachers and students to understand what is behind something that we see online, they will see online, because we are going to see online some simple examples. The preferred solution is the split that reduces most the impurity. So this is the chart, and we can calculate the impurity. So we see that the Gini index here is 0.459. And we started from this one. The outlook, raining and sunny. There is the first division. Then we saw that the overcast, when we are in overcast, they go plate. So they always go plate to the overcast. Yes, 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 yes. Because what happened with this chart, you have two part of the ramification. In this case, it was simple because this is neutral. Because if we are in overcast, we don't have any choice. We go for a yes. But if we have 3 or more, we have to find a way to split. And later I will show you a simple. Then we'll try to put sunny plus overcast, or sunny and rainy and overcast, or overcast and rainy. And in any case, we have to have 2 branches. And then according humidity and wind. No play. Normal, play. Windy, yes. No play. No play. Of course, it's a simplification. We may not go playing because we have a test tomorrow, the day after. So, but we consider only these variables. So is a simplification, okay? And we have to tell them that is a simplification. Maybe the computer can use more variables, not without maybe. so we have the index, the Gini index, and we go for the impurity. Because if it's purity, is because it's a yes, a branch is always yes, a branch is always no, so it's one. So, and then we focus on the second part of the branch. We are in the branch, in the humidity, high normal, and we see that we have different options. So we are going to find taking humidity as first features, and then we go for the second index, and we see that is 0.94 for the high, and 0.24 for the normal. But we have to normalize, I think is the mathematical terms, and we find this other index, and we see what is the gain, because the problem is how long we go and find different possibilities. We can go for, we can pick a certain numbers of splits, or we can find a value that tell us, okay, you can stop here, don't go further. So this is the second option. We can set a value and say, okay, when we reach that value, we can stop there. So these are the gain when we go to the branch of humidity, when you go to the branch of windy, and when we go to the branch of temperature. And then the second part is when we decide that the case of the overcast separated from the sunny and rainy. Remember at the beginning we had sunny, raining, and overcast was neutral. But we can go and create different chart with overcast, sunny plus raining, or sunny plus overcast and rainy overcast. This is the final, the best option. So the gain with this is 0.99, so is higher compared to the other ones. The meaning is, if we go deeper, are we gaining other information? Yes. Which is the best part of the branch? Okay, in this case is this. Okay. So the idea is this one. How and when do we stop? We have to define a stop rule. That is the condition that stop the tree, I would say. The stopping rules is a hyperparameter in the chart. We have different possibilities. The trees reach a specific depth, very long. The trees has reached a certain number of nodes. Every leaf contains a minimum number of records, and a new split reduces the impurity until it reaches the point of the side. We are going for this example. We saw this part, okay? And this exercise can be done by writing, by hand. Okay. and I did. I tried to do the same exercise. So we build our training, and we can make prediction. So we have a new record event, we can enter a tree with a specific condition, and we follow the split until we reach our outcome. And that is, there will be the classification where the outcome of the record for training set ends up in the same node. So this is the prediction path that we can do manually. After this example, they can work with the slide machine. Okay. This is a simple example of slicing and recognizing how they work to recognize from some pictures what is a pizza. They have a set of imaging, and they can recognize from the imaging what is pizza, what is not pizza. Can I go? With a slice of machine learning activity, we show them how AI can analyze training data and make decision based on a criteria of the specified in the decision tree. Once they have completed the activity, they can review what they have done before. And the AI tool is called a classifier. What are data set, different use of training set and overfitting. They can understand the concept of overfitting, because if we go too far, we may find a case that is an exceptional case in a simple way for them. So they understand what overfitting means. And the feature they use in the nodes and the order of the question in the node and branches affect the accuracy. So they have to go back and think, what I've done? Could I have choose other question? Could I have done in a different way what I did? Then we'll go fast because I think that we have a solid classification problem with AI. In this activity, students consider a real problem that AI might be able to solve with classification algorithms. They will see example of classifications and they will apply to their environment. So, for example, they will understand the classification algorithms like the decision tree are used by AI to solve real-world problems. For example, helping a spam filter, distinguishing between what is a spam. Distinguishing feature of facial recognition to open up the iPhone for visual recognition of a person in a road, powering speech recognition for visual assistants and translators to distinguish between words or users, and diagnostic medical condition for distinguishing between symptoms and combination of symptoms. So they will see how this kind of classifier can be found in the world. And for example, what can be used? Facebook is an example of facial recognition, or Google as master for test classifications and natural language process. And what are the competencies? The use of digital technologies with pedagogical strategies, because we are using pedagogical strategies like working in groups, reasoning on the learning process with the use of technology. Then we go deeper with other activities. There will be a brainstorm and small groups to come up with classification problems related to specific subject area that might be asked by AI. Students should both determine what type of data would need to be used and explain the problem classifying it would solve. I mean, they go back on their different disciplines. They are going to share the ideas with the whole class and discuss which those ideas might be might have a big positive or negative impact on the field. Possible responsive physical education, analyzing videos of swimming to determine if the movement of the swimmer is good, is efficient or not. Music, classifying new music based on the characteristics, so that an app can make a recommendation for the users. Visual art, can classify and tagging a database at artwork based on the material. Economics, classify home economics, classifying recipe by feature, ingredients, calories, and difficulties or taste. And then they will try a guessing game. Akinator is a guessing game where they pick you can pick a characteristic problem, and it helps the student to question to understand what is the result. Then they go back again to work in small groups to create a decision tree to classify information in a specific context. The decision tree should be about a specific topic in the area that they are studying. Have been 4 or 10 categories, have a connected series of nodes, and each have branches of each nodes that connect to the next questions. At the end, they have to simulate a guessing game. They will do manually. They have to play in groups or in couples to play with a guessing game. Before they have to build a guessing game, and then they can do a sort of competition with different groups. A group build a guessing game, and according to how many responses the other group does, they can simulate a competition. But each group has to build a guessing game, a sort of decision tree. So all the groups work on the project, they build the guessing game, a different kind, so they can at the end discuss about what they built, if the question were correct, the characteristics chosen were correct or not. We have some possible expansions that are not. What is the big problem here for the teachers? Is the assessment. Because when we, in the classical way, we test the knowledge. But when we work with competencies, it's difficult. We cannot wait the end of the project to assess all the students, all the process. We have to be focused and watch them in each step, and help them to be able to self-assess. And with some of the A tools, they can do. If you think to the classical tool of the Duolingo, the English tools, you see it's a simple app where you learn a language, you pronounce a word, and if it's wrong, when they ask you to put the right answer and it's incorrect, the application, the app will tell you, no, it's wrong. So with these tools, they can even use them by themselves to understand if they are going in the right path or not. There are different kind of links that explain how the intelligent tutoring system works, and we have to build for them probably a sort of chart of classification of a chart that helps them to understand if they are on the right path or not. So is why we assessing a panel of indicators, not only on for the knowledge and for the memory, even for the past. And we can, this will be, I think, for us as a teacher, a very big problem. Because we have seen, when we try to develop a learning and creativity plan with STEAME as our main goal, it's difficult to assess because it changes completely the way, is a new way to assess. So I think that is a point that for us can be, as a teacher, can be very useful to dedicate a part of this work to the assessment. First question. Okay, most of you, a lot of you are mathematics, engineering engineers, so you know how the AI works. But for me, it was useful to see this kind of example because I got an idea of how the slice machine works, how it can be used, what is behind, just an idea. I mean, there are different because it's only the decision tree And only the kind of chart they divide into branches, but I know that there are different tools that use different kind of classification, for example. So, any questions?
The issue of assessment is very big. I think, and what will happen in 10 or 20 years from now as far as assessment of schools, of students in schools, whatever, may surprise us. Even though they say that artificial intelligence should not be used for assessment.
Yeah.
But my imagination goes and says, why not artificial intelligence can follow everything we do every day, anytime, any place, any moment, and can assess our competences and knowledge based on our activity. So maybe someday, those who are experts can tell us, someday, we don't have to take a test because this thing is taking a test, a continuous test of my activity and my thinking and my competence, let's say, besides other, my laptop also, I don't know, hidden cameras also, who knows? So as far as assessment, we can think that in 20 years from now, maybe it will be done by artificial intelligence, so nobody will have to take a test. But assessing, let's say, the teaching, assessing students for the teacher, I don't know, we can go to traditional methods, even with project-based learning. We have evaluation rubrics developed already, if it's project-based learning activity. But if it's any other type of testing, I don't know, we have to, it's part of our challenge to, when we develop the learning plans, to also define how you examine the learning outcomes that have been achieved by the students.
I think they exist in a certain way because I read, as I was reading, searching, I read there are some tools that help to understand special needs. Some all disabilities are difficult to understand, and they are developing some AI tools to help the physician to understand what if the kids have these disabilities. So I think that they are based on some sort of identification and even error. I don't know. Maybe in some way there are some sort of, but we will see.
Any other questions?
I think we don't need 20 years. In my opinion, we already have some questionable artificial intelligence solutions that make me think that we are manipulated. And we are being manipulated on social media, on social networks. Even the tendencies that we work on, they come from where? From news that are manipulated, from social media that are manipulated. This project, why did it come up? Because it's a topic that is getting a lot of interest. Let's imagine that we have an artificial intelligence algorithm that is growing. It needs it to grow. It needs this project, the output of this project to grow. Let me make myself clear. So, in fact, we don't exactly know, but there are many researchers that are doing their part to prevent some bad things to happen, of course. But that kind of thinking is also always difficult to answer. But we have we've seen some documentaries that saw that some countries, the elections were manipulated and something like that. So it's not totally difficult, and it's quite possible to do things like this. Because we don't know the reality. It's very difficult. It's everything.
It's part of the ethics, I think, that has to be.
Yeah. The
European
European Commission is working on a lot of projects that has ethics and principles that are being discussed, and they want to make artificial intelligence research follow some rules. For example, in Canada, they approved some very strict rules on working on artificial intelligence, for example.
It's very complicated.
It's not very big.
It's very complicated, the subject of ethics. And it's complicated because in every country you have different approaches. So in order to create a common law, let's say, it's very complex.
But on the other hand, to take the devil's lawyer, I would say, we are thinking about ethics. The fact that we are current people, the future people, they have different ethics. So we try to impose the ethics of the future people with our current ethics, which may be wrong.
Oh, yeah, it needs to be dynamic for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're doing the right thing, or if the European Commission is doing the right thing. Mr. Professor Gagas told me that you are not allowed to use artificial intelligence for assessment of people. It's prohibited. By who? And why? And how can you control it? How can you stop it? I don't know.
Yes, but manipulation is not a digital discovery. Manipulation is a problem of the humanity since the
It's a problem of our minds.
early ages. So manipulation goes hand in hand with the history of mankind. So what the digital artificial intelligence does is to increase the risks. So it's not a new ethical problem.
No, but
It's an old ethical
But
problem.
my logic says, if I can manipulate you, it's your problem and not my problem.
Even in the Greek history, manipulation has been done in the wars.
Socrates died.
So it's not something.
It was manipulation.
So
The
it's not something new. So what is new in the ethics now is if we are humanity is ego-centered or it's more life-centered. Should we integrate in our ethics the animal life, for example? This is a new ethical problem. But manipulation, it's an old problem. What we have to teach to the students is the danger of new techniques of manipulation.
And if I may add, it is an old problem, but what we're dealing with today is extreme speed of,
Yes.
of applications of this technology in almost everything in our everyday life. So it's not about if it is an old problem or if it is a new problem. It is about how fast we can actually build a framework that can protect,
control
control it. In my point of view.
it. Yeah, because as you said, it's an old problem, the tools can make it faster
Yes.
and more powerful.
And
But the question is not that. The problem is there a human entity that is trying to control or not, and use technologies to control or not? Do we have the control on systems that we are trying to control? That is the problem. That is the real problem. The focus on the objectives. The majority of algorithms on artificial intelligence are wrongly defining the objectives. That is the real problem.
Probably the way we should find a way in which AI is a helping tool. So helps the teacher with the work that takes us a lot of time, and we can focus on the human part, the relation with the students. So in that sense, it's very important. If I'm not an Italian or a language teacher, but I've seen they have pages and pages to go through and assess. If I have a tool that helps me to cut the time, the tool does the work, then I have the result. I can really, in fact, not after 15 days, but after a day, I can work directly, maybe.
Okay, we need to take a break, but let me give you an example of a mistaken artificial intelligence. Bookings.com has artificial intelligence. When I visit to book a hotel in Sofia, after a few minutes, I receive messages but they don't see that I already booked a hotel for €100 and it's trying to tell me to book a hotel for €50 a night. But if I book a hotel according to the documentation, they lose money because if I book less, they get less commission. But they don't see that I already booked a room, a hotel, so they should stop sending me messages. So this is a mistake in artificial intelligence for me. It is a program, right? They should realize.
They have to do with personal rights, so then they may have a filter in order to track.
Yeah, but why do they do it? They do it to market, right? So if they should know that I already booked a hotel. Don't send me offers for cheaper hotels, for example.
Anyway, I just want to take an example of assessment for AI using in assessment, because Google Classroom has a software that helps teacher to see if the work is copied. So we call it in Italian anti-plagio, against copying other works. So they screen all the homeworks of the students, and the software tells us if 10%, 50%, 70% of this paper is copied from the source. And so we can say that's more, homework is not good or
Let me give you an example, very fresh, of two proposals we wrote. And I wrote the same proposals under two different organizations. One under the European Association of Erasmus, and the one under the Cyber Math Society. When you describe management methodology, impact methodology, dissemination methodology, I'm the same author, so I do my same system in any project I do. Huh? Now, two assessors are looking at the proposals, but they don't know, because it's two different organizations that are written by the same person. So they see the same style, and they say, one is copied from the other. So Gregor is copied from Gregor. And they write comments on the assessment that this proposal is coming from this one, this is good. But they don't know that the author is the same. The national agency knows.
You're talking about your experience in booking. Maybe that is a prime example of manipulation that we were talking about. They're not trying to sell you a new hotel. They're trying to increase your trust in the platform. So when you go somewhere else, you indirectly think, oh, they are always sending cheaper hotels, so maybe I will use this site because it has always a cheaper option. And that is a kind of indirect manipulation by artificial models.
Keeping me happy with booking.com.
Yes.
Because that's what they do. They can do. So
That's an explanation. Reasonable, yes, I accept.
So
But for me, it's not, I feel bothered, right? Don't keep sending me, I already booked my hotel,
analysis, your versus your peak trust. They prefer your peak trust because that's where the profits came. And that's where artificial intelligence is not very good.
But we can train an AI model to protect us from AI.
Just before we leave, it's 15.
Yes.
Okay, and one more thing, I know that there are people who smoke. Our request is get out of the building and smoke in the cafeteria area. Because by law, it's not able to smoke in the area.